Hi, everybody. Third day in a row. It's getting colder and colder. I hope everybody is staying healthy and safe wherever you may be in the States, especially if you're in the South. The storm is coming our way, or it's here. So take care of yourselves. So today, let me just refer again to where to find the stuff that I'm talking about. It is either belcantobootcamp.com/judging Mozart, or you can head over to the Instagram of Belcanto Bootcamp and go to the link tree that's also there. But if you're here in your computer, belcantobootcamp.com/judging Mozart. Make sure you spell judging correct. Okay, so the last 2 days, first day I kind of talked about why I talk about this, because I want to allow people to really just kind of get into like the research of how classical music used to be performed, and creating space for singers who want to sing according to those historical perspectives. Again, as I said in the first day, the purpose is not to make the entire world fall in love with ornamentation in Mozart, but the purpose is, I hope you do, but if you don't, to still give space for singers who do like singing it that way, and not kind of impose your opinion of let's call it a more simple version of Mozart, right? We also have this idea about Baroque music, right? That, simplicity is better. Oh, I just like my Baroque music simple, and I like my Mozart simple. And, I always tell people, have you ever been to a Baroque church? Have you ever been to a Rococo church? Did the word simple come to mind, right? It's very ornamental times, like in architecture, in costumes, in the fashion of the time, and also like in the music of the time. It's a very much a period of ornamental music, all the way from Handel through Mozart to Rossini, Donizetti, and so. So today, the file that you're looking for is called Mozart Ornamenting Mozart. And before we look at it, because it's going to start out right with appoggiaturas, there is also in that folder a PDF that's called Appoggiatura Quotes. And so maybe we can read, just so that we organize ourselves about why we find all of these appoggiaturas. Since we're in the classical period, let's read Corri. This is this is the introduction of a select collection of songs and duets from operas in the highest esteem. It's in 1780, right? So we often will tell singers to read treatises from the time of the music that they are singing, right? So here we're in the classical period, and Corri is a good guy to read. If you're just going to read one, read Corri. So he says, indeed, either an air or recitative. So that's the first thing to note. He says it's not, when we're talking about appoggiaturas, we're not only talking about recitative only. We say either in an air, a song, or a recitative, sung exactly as it is commonly noted, would be a very inexpressive, nay, a very uncouth performance. Right, that's the repeated notes. For not only the respective duration of the notes is scarcely even hinted at, so it's not really specific how long the note should be used in singing, but one note is frequently marked instead of another, as is the case where a note is repeated instead of that note with its proper appoggiatura or grace, right? So you see two A flats instead of a B flat and a A flat, in consequence of which the singer is misled by being made to sing a wrong note. So if in the words of Corri, also Tosi, Telemann, Mingozzi, Garaudet, Garcia, the other people on this page, if you don't sing the appoggiatura, if you don't insert the appoggiatura, you are singing a wrong note. It is uncouth, it is uneducated, all of those things. They're all quite, Garcia says it is not tolerable to sing two of the same notes. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it. I think that there is a YouTube video with me talking about the appoggiatura in detail, and maybe I can link that, why it is, right? And in short, it is because it supports the stress and unstressed part of the poem, of the language. So that's why it's called the prosodic appoggiatura, right? So the word amore has a stress on more, and therefore if it's written amore, you would sing amore because you want to create the tension on the stressed syllable. Okay, in short, why wasn't it written? Because it would have been confusing to the continuo group to see all these dissonances. So it was part of how composers were taught to write, that they always had to write consonants. Okay, so that's just the kind of short little preamble. Now we go to the file called Mozart, Ornamenting Mozart, and this is the aria Alcandro Lo Confesso. It is not from an opera, it is a freestanding aria. It was written, I have the basic information I wrote on the top of the PDF. It was written for Aloysia Weber, and it was first sent to her in 1778. She was the sister of Mozart's wife. I believe word is that she was the sister he really was in love with and wanted to marry, but she didn't want him or something like that. I don't really get up in Mozart's business other than his ornamentation. So in 1783, he sent her this ornamented version, which is what we're going to look at. I kind of made this markup to kind of help you understand what it is you're looking at. And the same as yesterday, I'm going to try and not rush myself and just kind of talk through all of it. So it will probably take a little more than a half an hour or 40 minutes. So if this is not an opportune time for you, you can come back to it. And if the video is too long, you can just kind of save it and see whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go from the top of the aria, and it starts with the recitative. Oh, as I wrote, there's also a bass setting in 1787 that was written for Fischer. But we are looking Alcandro Lo Confesso, or Non so donde, and the aria Non so donde vieni. So when we look at it, in this score, this is from the Neue Mozart Ausgabe, I believe, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure. Again, it is available, so you can find it yourself. You will see that some appoggiaturas are indicated here by the editor of this edition, but you will see with like red asterisks I indicated where, according to Corri, you should insert more appoggiaturas, right? So elsewhere, Garcia says, when a phrase or a member of a phrase terminates in two of the same pitches, you need to insert an appoggiatura for the prosodic reasons. So whenever you punctuate, basically. So if you say Alcandro Lo Confesso, stupisco di me stesso, you have punctuated. You will also see that Mozart punctuated by putting 8 notes. So while the editor is correct in suggesting the appoggiatura on stesso at the end of the line, in fact, it should be all the way in between, or on all of the places where you punctuate. Tomorrow I will share some more kind of research in this regard, where we can see how it was done. So what's written is Alcandro Lo Confesso. Most of you will probably be doing that one like the editor, but really should be Alcandro Lo Confesso, stupisco di me stesso, right? Same thing. Il volto, il ciglio, la voce di costui, like, and so on. When there's a little list, a punctuation, we put the appoggiatura. So here you will see the editor put the appoggiatura on ciglio, but not on il volto. Ma perché, right? So this is why you have to know, kind of Corri, the rules. So please don't, this is also happens in Berenreiter. People are like, oh, all the appoggiaturas are notated in Berenreiter. All of them are not. It really depends on which editor decided. There are some editors that tend to leave out the appoggiaturas if the notes come from below, or, you know, according to their own understanding. But so it's better to really understand the sources for yourself, and the sources are very clear. Whenever you punctuate, you must put an appoggiatura. So Not il volto, il ciglio, but il volto, il ciglio, or il volto, il ciglio. Yeah, you can sing the appoggiatura from below or above. That's another thing, topic that I think I talked about in the appoggiatura YouTube. La voce di costui. Here you have the editor putting the appoggiatura stui. Nel cor mi resta un palpito di visto. Correct. Now I wrote optional midline. Desta scans long short. So you could put an appoggiatura there as well if you want to, but you don't have to, according to Corri, right? Nel cor mi resta, I think maybe we'll look at actually some Corri appoggiaturas tomorrow if we have time. Un palpito improvviso, che lo risenti ogni fibra. So all of those ones that I put the pink circles around, you could put. So Corri says that the appoggiatura gives grace to the line. It makes a more beautiful shape. It introduces dissonance which shapes the phrase better than the kind of like dryness of consonants. Does that make sense? So you don't have to do them. You could sing. Sorry, I need my glasses because this is a small score. This is not going to be great with. Yes, definitely on sangue. But would have more shape, right? This is terrible with like my selfie line. Now, fra tutti miei pensieri la cagione. Now, if you're going to elide, if you're going to take the rest out, you could sing fra tutti miei pensieri la cagione. Again, if you don't punctuate, you don't have to put it, but I would put it. I would put the appoggiatura because it gives a better shape to the line. Even if I sing across the rest, I would still put it, but you don't have to, right? So this is I'm trying to make a difference between like what I like or what I would do and what I know we have to do. Okay, the next line, fra tutti i miei pensieri la cagione e non la trovo. Yeah, all of those appoggiaturas by the editor are all good. So, absolutely appoggiaturas. All of the appoggiaturas. So they are not suggestions, they are have-tos. If you want to sing in the HIPP, the historically informed performance practice tradition, right? You sing them all. Okay, now when you turn the page, you get to the aria, and here we have in this part of the aria, unlike yesterday where I had to make like a version so that you could see the unornamented and the ornamented version, here it is printed in the Neue Mozart Ausgabe exactly, so we can see the original is on the bottom. Now, the first ornament you see is in fact writing out a portamento. This I referred to yesterday, that when Mozart preempts the notes or like anticipates the new pitch with often a dot or like una amorosa and many other such examples like non so, right? When he writes this as an ornamented version, that is in fact just really asking the singer to truly sing a quite open portamento. Now, does that mean other places you shouldn't connect? No, you should always connect the notes, right? They should always be legato. But this is how Mozart really implores you to sing in this Italian tradition of like connecting the pitches. Also, interestingly enough, I think here, and I'm not sure if I had this idea before. If you just said the text, non so donde vieni, you could want to double that D, right? Because we double after this verb form, non so donde vieni, which would make non so donde, which would negate that kind of Italianate open portamento. So maybe that's why he writes it here, right? It's like even though that D can be double in your prosody, still sing this portamento for me, right? Then he ornaments the passing note with a little mordent. Then the original. We know for a fact, first level, we have to this, right? Interestingly here, you will see that in the original you have 2 quarters. In the ornamented version, you have the appoggiatura and it's 2 eighth notes. And how should it be performed? Neither as quarters nor as eighths, right? You want to feel the appoggiatura lean, or we say a language that is dependent on like stresses, that's dependent on length, right? In Italian, we say the stress is shown by the lengthening the syllable, not necessarily the vowel, but the syllable. Affetto, affetto, that is a short vowel, but a long syllable. That's always going to feel like a triplet in the Italian mouth, in the Italian ear, right? Does that make sense? Now, you see, in the original, they have this written out portamento. Yeah, instead of that feeling. It's like really connected. Then ornament on te, an additional appoggiatura, and then insert additional harmony notes to ornament. Could have made a scale out of it, yeah? Oh, sorry. Right? If you wanted to take it a step further, you could fill in those thirds and write a little scale. And Mozart would be like, yay, good job, yeah? Then original. We know it has to be. I think it's interesting that Mozart replaces these quarters with like eighth notes. It's almost like he doesn't want you to sing. Right? He wants to have that kind of naturalness to it. What else does he do? He repeats the A flat to create a little scalar motion, almost Schleifer-like. What's a Schleifer? Right? But not fast. A Schleifer, 2 or 3 notes coming from above, from below towards the note. So it's that kind of motion he creates here, but not as fast. Original. Ornament. Ah, I see there's no D flat here in the score. Why did I play a D flat? Isn't a D flat, of course. Duh, Rochelle. So, in the original is just exactly the same. It's not only ornamented the second time, it's ornamented both times, but differently. Right? So, another little show a little marker for us to be like, we don't necessarily only ornament the second time. We can already flesh out the skeleton the first time and then flesh it out more. I see some people on this call that inspired this little series of Mozart ornamentation. I hope it reaches all of the right ears. Original, I'm on page 45 now. What does he do? He repeats the B flat and then writes this portamento. So instead of quel gel, he writes quel gel. Yeah. Really open your eyes to like Mozart's notation of like legato. Is very, very useful, especially in a world where people are like, there's no portamento in Mozart. Fake news, right? If you really understand notation, my friend Derek sometimes says, like, you should do a whole thing just about, like, the history of notation, because things mean different things at different times, right? Like, this, what looks very simple is this, like, anticipation of the notes. That is really classically what is, how a portamento in vocal music is written out. Right, so he repeats the previous note and then connects original, ornament, now original. You see how it screams skeleton? This is just bones with no flesh on it. What does he do? First he puts an appoggiatura, and then he puts all the other harmony notes. He moves in a big interval back down to the skeleton, and then instead of do ti do yes dom, right, I play that whole phrase, the original and then the ornament. Mozart ornament. Gorgeous, yeah? So again, we can be like, oh, what genius. Well, yes, of course, genius, but the tools that he's using to make it happen are pretty simple. And if you understand the tools, you can 100% do that. You can put an appoggiatura. So say, for example, the next line, you're like, okay, Rachel said, just put an appoggiatura and see where I get. So the original line, I am now in bar 29, is this. What happens if I just put appoggiaturas? What does he do? He does put exactly that first appoggiatura, then writes that kind of get to the new note before the new note comes. And he does write an appoggiatura in Viennese, but what does he write? An unprepared chromatic appoggiatura with the same resolution. Also, bar 29, very useful to think about the fact that he writes in the simple version, uses the fewest amount of rests. This is true for music for a long time because people are writing by hand and not Sibelius or like whatever the programs are people are using to compose these days, right? They're writing by hand. They write the minimum amount of rests. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right? It's interesting that in his ornamented version, he makes that upbeat shorter. I'm working on Rossini at the moment. I'm talking to like my students all the time about how misleading it can be when you just look at how long is the upbeat. Because some upbeats will be longer and some will be shorter, but when you really look at it from a notational perspective, there's a kind of just very practical reason why they are notated differently. And in practice, in fact, they are just short syllables. What do I mean? The poem is non so donde viene. So whether you sing non so, you just always want to feel that it moves this way, right? So it's so easy for us to be like, oh, it's a quarter, it's a full quarter, non so. But here Mozart himself is like, well, it's not really a full quarter. It's like a upbeat. And he doesn't do the back to the F, but you could. Original. Skeleton. It's not really music yet, right? It's an idea. It's a harmonic idea. It is a poem set to a harmonic progression. What is the ornament? Cool shit. What is it? It's a turn followed by an inverted turn. Now, let's be honest. Most singers would come up, if a singer came up with this, the vast majority of teachers around the world would be like, that's just too much. Well, it wasn't too much for Mozart, right? Now, it could be too much for a singer that doesn't have a particular flair for this kind of filigree, right? It's not really, it looks like coloratura, it's fast notes, but it's not fast music. It's, yeah, and finds fastish notes in slow music. You need a great facility of technical and also of musical imagination. So you could say for a young singer or a less accomplished singer is not the best idea, this ornament. And you could just do the turn, okay? But the point here is that Mozart doesn't think that partnering a turn with an inverted turn in this moment is too much, right? Then original. The only thing that is added here is the appoggiatura. What could you do? Oh, sorry. My brain is not quite awake yet. So you could, right, or really, my brain is not alive yet. Yeah, I could put a little mordant, yeah. Okay, next. The very original is all built around appoggiaturas, and he does not screw with it until this moment when he makes, right, ornaments the idea a little more. Mama needs her glasses again. What is that? Oh, it's a triplet. Yeah, so the original. Why is this F written look like a, sometimes I hear people sing this. This is bar 44. Sometimes I hear people mistake this for an acciaccatura. No. It is an appoggiatura, right? You can see the harmony note is this, E flat, it's sitting in the bass. The F, the little note, is an appoggiatura, it must be long. It's notated as a small note for the same reason that it is left out very often, and that is not to confuse the harmonic, the harmony from the continuo group, right? So, but you have to sing, and then he puts a little extra turn by just putting an upper note. Original. I friggin' love this, right? Look what he does. He makes this affettuoso, he makes this like longing. Non so donde viene. I ask you, with tears in my eyes, how could you possibly sing that without portamento? It is asking you to flow the legato, to connect the pitches with each other, right? To find the drama in the sound. That is legato. Original. Here he does notate the appoggiatura because it's notated through the entire orchestra, right? The 6/4 chord is notated. What is the ornament? Right, so he puts another. What are the harmony notes? B flat, D, F. He puts appoggiaturas. Right, that's my little like color scheme. Then ornament. You see how simple it is? The ideas are simple yet effective. Now, genius coming our way. Yeah? What's the original? Sequence. What does he write? So instead of the sequence, he is going to take the line up. You know, everybody's like, oh, I want to sing a high note. This is how you sing high notes. This is how you add high notes. into the fabric of the music, not as a, oh, it's all middle voice, I want to sing a high B flat, right? No, it's part of the musical imagination how you do that, right? Sometimes when I talk against like putting high notes at the end of bel canto arias, that's just like the high so do or tampa, yeah, these are, then people are like, oh, see, Rochelle is like, good job, Rochelle, you're against the high notes. And I'm not against the high notes, I'm against those high notes, right? Those high notes are unstylistic. But here is a stylistic high note that is added. It's beautiful in the singer's voice. I'm sure Mozart knew Aloysia's voice. He's like, will be gorgeous for you to sing this B flat, but he ties it in. He goes with a big interval to the B flat, then he comes down scalar, like to it, to rejoin the skeleton, right? So he comes back to the original. So instead of, we have ay, 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 gorgeous. Just take in how gorgeous that is, right? I'm playing correct, right? Yes. Beautiful. See how much dissonance there is? How central dissonance is to the creation of the ornament. I played both the main and the ornament together. Right, ornament. Then we have this beautiful melisma that he leaves alone. Play in the right tempo. So the only thing he adds is these sforzando pianos, yeah, on the appoggiaturas, right, to just remind you, like, always lean your dissonance, always lean your dissonance. A little extra. Beautiful. Skeleton filled out. Gorgeous. Beautiful, right? And you see how he uses the same things, little inverted mordents or like lower neighbors, scales, to create the melisma, right? To create the coloratura. Okay, now we are in Allegro agitato. At this point, in this edition, there are no added things, but I tell my students, practice adding your appoggiatura variations by Garcia. First, you have to know where the appoggiatura comes, yeah? Sorry, not to be flats. We know it has to be, or has to be two of those. Appoggiatura variations, as we find in Garcia, or, right? There are different, there's a whole little list of them. Maybe I can find a piece of paper that it's on and put it in the folder, yeah? Then, yeah, or could add appoggiaturas, right? Because it's a sequence. First one. Or something else. Many different things. You could add more if you wanted to. Yeah. So in this middle section, there's not a lot of. You could again, as I said, la sol la pietà con parmi che basti la sola verità. You could put another appoggiatura if you want. Yeah, it's fast music. It's moving. It's not like a lot of like ornamentation happening here, but all of the appoggiaturas. Yes, all of these. This no, non parmi che basti, no, non so. And now we're back. Now, at this point in this score, this I call it, and if you might also have this from before from the end, and when it's called Alcandro composite, because here I got the original from a different score. It is not in this score, so it's only the ornamented version we see in this. So similar to yesterday's Lucio Silla, I wrote the original in my hand here, right? So original. And here, instead of this simple appoggiatura, we have in the ornament version, right? Then, again, in the original, it's just the 8th note. When he writes it again, he writes the 16th. But in both cases, it is a written out apportamento. Original does not have all of the filigree. So original ornament. Amazing, right? Just listen to this harmony, yeah? Oh, yeah. What am I playing? Oh, sorry. Gorgeous. So, what does he do? He put the turn. No. Right? Again, you need facility. You need incredible flexibility. More than being able to go ha 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 ha, right? Which people now think is flexibility. Being able to sing with, like, I don't know, rhythmic verve and H's and antics, bodily antics, vocal antics, instead of like the true flexibility that has both technical flexibility and musical imagination. You have to be a great musician, right? I'm going to play this whole thing one more time. The original and then the ornament. Original. Now, listen, you have to just bow, right? So I say, it's simple what he does, but he's a master at it, right? But we can become masters. Maybe we cannot become Mozart. I mean, of course, we cannot become Mozart, but we can create such beautiful ornamentation if we learn from him. He does. this, in this case, this B flat is a little acciaccatura. It's not, right? Because, why? This A flat is the leading note. So, if what I just said doesn't make sense, shoot me an email. Portamento, original, ornamented version just fills the scale. This is beautiful, yeah? Original. Now, because it's Mozart, is already genius, yeah? But it's interesting, right, that in his ornamented version, he introduces these anticipatory movements, these portamenti that will lead you down this chromaticism. It does not mean no, H's. He's asking you to get to the next pitch soon. Yeah, Callas talks about this difference in the Juilliard masterclasses when you can sing oh or oh, yeah, whether you get to the pitch with a new rhythm or just connect it. He asks for a new rhythm, which is a kind of heightened portamento. Original. What is the ornament? Sorry. Flips. Yeah, it's what we call at Bel Canto Bootcamp flips. Practice. Yeah, it's thirds. It's the singer version of thirds. They're very effective in coloratura and ornamentation, but can be hard if you don't practice them. Original. Pretty ornamental in itself, right? What is the skeleton, the actual skeleton? It's just F, yeah. Next level, appoggiatura. Chromatic. And then again, get there earlier. It's this idea of like getting to the new note early is pretty cool. See the simple added of the upper note. Right, so an original just in the ornament. Then we get again, hi friends. We have this like anticipatory portamentoing in this chromaticism again. And then the skeleton, pom, 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 pom. Yeah, that's not genius, that's just harmony. What's the genius? Right, skeleton, ornament. There's some extra bars in the other version here. That's time for another topic for another day. Original. Yeah. It's interesting, right? When you have the flesh and the skeleton next to each other, you can really immediately feel when Mozart is writing skeleton. That needs to be fleshed out. That's inviting you to flesh it out. How does he flesh it out himself? Yeah, inserting a little inverted mordent, chromaticism, new harmony note, and syncopation. I play the whole phrase as original. this part of the aria. To me, this is wild, right? This is wild. Like, I wrote some crazy version of Ach ich Feels when I wrote the Vakai project with this very high notes in, like, maybe I can find it quickly and like play it for you. That was inspired by this. This whole aria never had extension in it, right? It's not an extension aria, it's not a coloratura aria, but it's clear it's written for a voice that has that possibility. And now he introduces these high notes that you like, I don't know, is like an octave higher than the other notes in the aria, but they are filigree, they are not high and loud, and it's like, look at me, look at my great ability and my musical imagination, but it's not the same as just like high loud notes, right? Imagine a great soprano, yeah? Yeah? Could be also a piano concerto, right? Could also be a piano concerto, but in fact, I would say the essence of it is vocal, not instrumental. I hate when people say, oh, Mozart is so hard to sing because it's instrumental. I don't think that's true at all. And I don't think Mozart is harder to sing than other composers. It's harder to sing when you tell singers to sing it non-legato, yeah? That makes it hard. Okay, I wonder if I can find that. Let's see if I can find this Ach ich Feels. Oh, wait, it's in the Vakai project, which is in my friend's studio. That inspired, oh, here it is. So I actually, if you have the Vakai project, it's on page 202. Seems my friend hasn't gotten here yet. I need to break the back. So I actually printed this moment. And what is the ornament that I kind of inspired? So in this part of like the Vakai project, we're talking about like creating the practice of deducing a skeleton from something that is already ornamental and then ornamenting it in a different way, which is, kind of what you have to do when you write variations for a bel canto cabaletta. But during COVID, I thought it would be interesting to do it with Ach ich Feels. It's often done with something like De Vieni, but the idea of like finding the skeleton of Ach ich Feels, which he has already ornamented, right? And then ornamenting it in a different way. So it is in the same, you can imagine what part of Ach ich Feels I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about this. Okay, I should have played the original so that you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this. Right. You see how that kind of reminded me of this. Okay, so what is the skeleton? Right. So I picked more notes for the skeleton. We could also just say the skeleton is right, but he brings this shape. How does he ornament it? By adding harmony notes, chromatic appoggiatura, same thing, appoggiaturas, turn, scale, turn, turn, scale, another scale, a turnaround C, reorganized pitches. So this is what I wrote when I had time in my life. It's still in a way Ach ich feels, right? Because it's still the same skeleton. What did I do? I left this open. I put this turn. Instead of appoggiaturas, I put mordents. Now, instead of turn, I went to a new harmony note and then wrote a scale. Then I put a turn, and then I repeated that pattern. Then I put that same kind of little turn. Then I was inspired by the Alcandro aria. Cadential troll. Okay. It was fun reminding myself that I did that. All inspired by Alcandro. Okay. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learn something from it, the way I learn every time I study things like this. And then I hope that it also inspires you to try your hand. By the way, do I think that you should go out and sing Ach ich feels with your own ornaments? No, of course not. But it's a great exercise, yeah? So if you have the Vakai project, try your hand at writing your own Ach ich feels on page 199, right? Also, if you ever want to record my version of Ach ich feels, I would love it. Yeah, it's a real. I remember so well going through that exercise of really kind of saying how can I use the same tools that Mozart uses. This really is my experience for everybody who wants to get better at it. Do write it down. I hear singers all the time being like, oh, I have an affinity for ornamentation. I have like 5 things on my head, but nothing on paper. The act of writing it down really helps you hone those skills, right? It helps you understand like, I have, and what are my tools? Turns, appoggiaturas, mordents, scales, trolls, yeah, the things that you can use, the same tools, different harmony notes that then connect with those tools. So put pen to paper, write 5 different versions. Don't just make it up in your mind, because also most modern singers make it up, and 75% of what they make up is some impression of what they remember hearing on a recording. I'm not saying you can never steal from a recording, but really write it down. Sometimes people are like, oh, I like that ornament, and then when you write it down, you're like, actually, it's not the greatest ornament. Just because it's on Deutsche Grammophon doesn't mean it's great, right? So really try your own hand. Again, in conclusion, what is the purpose of this? Please, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, I'm especially talking to the other grey people like me. If you grew up in a time of Mozart without ornamentation, that was not the time of Mozart, none of us are that old, please make space, give space, grant space to your young singers who might be interested in exploring this music from a more ornamental, more dissonant way. Even if it is hard for you to rehear an aria in a different way that you are not used to, yeah? That's called like progress, and it's also called being kind to the next generation. Okay. Tomorrow I will show you some additional kind of bits that will not be Mozart himself. It will be from the time of Mozart. As I said, maybe we look at some corri, maybe a couple of, so it will be more biddy, and I will see tonight how many things I can add to that folder. Again, the folder can be found at the URL belcantobootcamp.com/judging Mozart, or you can find it in the Belcanto Bootcamp link tree. Have a fabulous day. Please stay warm and please stay safe. Bye-bye.